Hello, and thanks for tuning in for 2.6 Estimating with Percents. This is the optional video for the extra practice on textbook page 143 that I promised. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so as I indicated, I am selecting 4 problems from textbook page 143 to go ahead and work through so that you can see some examples while you're working on your homework or your classwork, depending on what you're doing. So for this problem, or for these problems, or this problem number 22, it says estimate each percent. So what that means is you need to actually change your 79%, and you're going to change that first to 80%. So your first step again is going to be to change the 79% to an 80%. And then once you've done that, you need to change that 80% into 80 per 100. Which would then reduce to, if you divide by 4, you get 20 25ths, and I can still divide out another 5, and I get 4/5. So now what I have, and remember you need to drill all the way down to get to that 4/5 before you actually decide what this compatible number is going to be. So if you're looking at 79% of 82, now I want to look at this 5 right here, and I want to look at this 82 right here. I need to pick a number that is a multiple of 5 that's close to 82. So that number that we're going to pick is going to be 80. So now I have 80. So it's 4/5 of 80. So now I'm going to cross simplify as you were taught. So we're going to cross out this 5 and this 80. We're going to divide them both by 5, so now we get 1. And over here, 5 goes in one time with 6, so I believe that's 16. And then the next step is going to be to multiply, because you still do have some information left over here. So you have this 4 that's left, and now you have this 16 that's left. So you're going to multiply 4 times 16, so let's actually change colors on that. You're going to multiply 4 times 16, and that gives you 24, 4, 6. So your answer is going to be about 64. All right, now we're looking at number 26. For number 26, the instructions say estimate using a rate per 100. So remember, for the rate per 100 section, the strategy is going to be a little bit different. Remember, that first piece of the strategy is going to say this 89%, we need to keep that as an 89%. So for the rate per 100 strategy, remember, the percent stays the same. Then you need to say, okay, 89% of, and then the next step is going to be to round this 195 to the closest 100. So since we have 195, that's super close to 200. Now that we know that we're going to be doing 89% of 200, 89% literally means 89 out of every 100. So we've got one set of 89 out of 100, and then we have another set of 89 out of 100. And that's because we have 200. So the 200 is right here, so this accounts for 100, this accounts for that 200. So now 9 plus 9 is 18, and 8 plus 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17. I'm going to go ahead and erase this 100 here because I don't want you to get confused about that. And we get a total answer, which is our final answer. So that total answer is going to be about 178. All right, so now, as you can see, we're going to look at number 28. So that's our first word problem. And it says, a group of friends went on a hiking trip. They planned to hike a total of 38 miles. So we're going to underline that 38 miles. Then it says they want to complete 25% of the hike by the end of the first day. About how many miles, so it's going to ask us about how many miles should they hike the first day. So let's go ahead and take a look at one key word first where it says, notice here where it says about. What that means is that is your indication that this is an estimate problem. So even if the directions don't say estimate, you want to, whoa, hold on one second. Even if the directions don't say estimate, you want to make sure that when you see that word about, that you actually estimate the problem. So let's go ahead and look here. About how many miles should they hike the first day? So the very first step for this too, after we've annotated the problem, is we are going to have to set the problem up. So what we're what we will be looking for is two specific pieces. So the first piece is going to be that you know what the original problem was. So the original problem should be 25% of 38 miles. So this is the first thing that you're going to need to have. You can't go straight to the estimating. You want to make sure that you pull out the original information first. Then once you're done with that information, you can go ahead and start working with those numbers. So now 25%, we're going to convert that into a fraction, being 1/4. Now because of this 4, we're going to go ahead and circle that 4, and we're going to circle the 38. And remember, what we need to do now for this 38 is we need to pick a number. All right, so I'm not sure exactly what happened. So this may actually be gone over twice. I'm not sure exactly what happened with the recording. So I may have already gone over this. You can skip past it if you are seeing this for the second time. It says a group of friends went on a hiking trip. They planned to hike a total of 38 miles. So that's the first piece. All right, so you have your 38 miles. And then it says they want to complete 25% of the hike by the end of the first day. And then it says about how many miles should they hike the first day. So that word about right there is what tells you that this is an estimate problem. So you want to be sure that whenever you see that word about, that you're looking for some sort of estimating type problem. So the first thing that you need to do is to set up the original problem. You don't want to go straight into rounding the numbers. So you want to know that you're looking for 25% of 38 miles. So this is the first piece that I'll be looking for. The second thing that you need to do is you're going to have to transfer or convert rather this 25% into a fraction. So you get 1/4. That's one of those ones that you should really just have memorized. Once you have your denominator here, you're going to go ahead and circle that because that is going to be important in deciding what you're going to change this 38 into. That's why we didn't go and change the 38 before we finished getting the fraction all the way. So now that we have the 38 and the 4, we want to find a number that is a multiple of 4 that's close to 38. So the number that comes to mind is going to be 40. That is close to 38, and it is a multiple of 4. So we're going to put a 40 there. Now the next step is the entire reason why you chose a multiple of 4 is so that you could cross simplify. Well, you're going to divide out 4, so you'll get a 1 here, and you'll get a 10 here. And then your final step is just going to be to do the multiplication. 1 times 10 is going to give you 10. And so you find out that your final answer is going to be about 10 miles. All right, so now what we're going to be looking at is problem number 30. So in problem number 30, it says the community garden has 596 vegetables. In the garden, 64% of the vegetables are green vegetables. About how many vegetables in the garden are green? So I'm going to circle green here too. And then the most important thing that it says in this problem is use rate per 100 to estimate. So anytime it tells you something specific, like a specific strategy to use, that's what you need to use to set it up. So your very first step, though, before you use any strategy, before you estimate or round at all, you're going to be setting up the problem. So you need to know what 64% of 596 is. So that's what you have to start with. This is A1A, number 1 important right there. So now that you have your original problem, you want to think to yourself, okay, I'm going to be using the rate per 100 strategy, and I know for that strategy, my first step is to keep the percent the same. So you want to just go ahead and write that you're going to keep the 64% will stay 64%. So 64% of, which means to multiply, and now you need to round the 596 to the nearest 100. So 596 would round to 600. Now you want to keep in mind that it's going to be 64 per 100, but you have 600s. So what you really need to look at, in the way that it would look visually, is 64 plus 64, 64, 64, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now again, the reason I have, let me move that plus sign so that it makes a little more sense. The reason I have 6 of these 64s right over here is because we were working with 600%, or I'm sorry, we were working with the whole number 600. So 64% means per 100. So you get 64 for the first 100, 64 for the next 100, and so on. So now I'm going to add all of those up. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which makes 36 plus 2 is 38. So your final answer using the rate per 100 strategy is going to be about 384 green vegetables. Now I'm going to say it again because I always say it, so I'm kind of like a repeating message here. You always want to make sure when you're looking at these types of problems that you're prepared for them to ask you both about how many vegetables in the garden are green or about how many vegetables in the garden are not green or are a different color. So you just want to be prepared. They could always ask you either of those two types of questions.